Well, hi, everyone. I am your host, Mike Hingson, and you are listening to Unstoppable Mindset podcast. Unstoppable Mindset, where inclusion, diversity, and the unexpected meet, and that's always so much fun. So we do sometimes talk about inclusion, and we do talk about diversity, and we talk about inclusion first because diversity usually leaves out disabilities. But in this case, we like inclusion because we won't let anyone leave out disabilities if they're going to talk about being inclusive. So there you go. But anyway, even more important than that is the unexpected, which is anything that doesn't have anything to do with diversity or inclusion. Our guest today kind of has a little bit to do with all of that stuff. Susan Janzen is our guest. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right.
Perfectly right. Yes.
Perfect. And Susan is up in Edmonton, Canada. And I met Susan a couple of weeks ago because both of us participated in the Potapalooza program. Potapalooza, for those of you who may be listening to this on a regular basis, Potapalooza is a program that happens 4 times a year where people come on who want to be podcasters, who are podcasters, or who want to be interviewed by podcasters. And we all kind of get together and we talk and we listen to some lectures, and a bunch of us go off into breakout rooms and we get to chat with people. And when I was being scheduled, Susan was not one of the people who, in fact, got scheduled with me, but she came into the room and she said, I want to talk to you. And so there we are. And so, Susan, welcome to Unstoppable Mindset, where we can talk.
Well, so glad to be in a room with you here on my screen. This is great.
Oh, it's fun.
You. Yeah.
And my door is closed, so my cat won't come in and bug me because every so often she comes in and what she wants is me to go pet her while she eats, but I'm not going to let her do that while the podcast is going on. So There you go. But anyway, it's good to be here, and I'm glad that you're here with us. And I understand that it's kind of nice and crisp and chilly where you are right now. No surprise. We are much warmer here.
Yeah, much warmer there. We had in Alberta, we're always in Edmonton, Alberta, we're called the sunny province because it doesn't matter how cold it gets. We always have blue cumulus clouds and beautiful blue sky.
And today you have
today it's
cold.
It's minus 10 with a skiff of snow. But you know what? Minus 10 here is actually, that's kind of my prerequisite for skiing. Like if it's minus 10 or warmer, I'm good. Because I'm not a very good avid skier. That's why.
My brother-in-law used to ski on a regular basis. He, in fact, used to take trips and take tours and allow people to hire him as their tour guide to go over to France to do off-piste skiing in the Alps. And he is also a cabinet maker and general contractor. And Gary's philosophy always is everything stops in the winter when there is an opportunity to ski. So
that would be wouldn't that be like the perfect job to probably be a golf pro in the summer and a ski tour guide in the winter?
Well, he was a contractor in the summer. Now he's doing more contracting all year round. He still skis, but he's not a certified mountain ski guide in France anymore. I assume that kind of runs out after a while, but he hasn't really taken people on trips there for a while. But anyway, we're really glad you're here. I would love to start by maybe you telling us a little bit about the early Susan growing up and all that.
Oh, the early Susan, that sounds great.
Sure. Let's do it.
That was a long, long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away, but let's do it anyway.
Exactly. So way back in the day, I was actually, my history is from, I had a mother who was a singer, and I'm also a professional singer, but she was my influence when I was younger. But when I was born, it was those terminology at that time was called out of wedlock. Oh my gosh. So bad. And so she was a single mom and raised me as a very determined and stubborn girl. And, we had our traumas, like we went through a lot of things together, but we survived and we're, all the things that I went through I was in foster care for a little while, and I kind of did a whole bunch of different things as a kid, and went on my own when I was 15. So I left home when I was 15. So I figured I'd be on my own. I figured I was mature enough to just go on my own, right? Like that made total sense and perfect sense to me at the time. And now I realize how young 15 is.
Yeah.
But finished high school and went on the road and was a singer for like over 25 years. That's better. And so that's that was kind of like the childhood part of me. And that's, I think, what's putting me into all these I was in a convent for a while with 100 girls.
And so you went off and you sang, you said, for 25 years?
Yes. And
Wow.
I'm still singing. That was, yeah.
And I was reading that you sing with a 17-piece big band orchestra.
I do. It's called the Trocadero Orchestra. It's the whole horn section, the rhythm section. It's so much fun. I can't tell you. So we do that. We don't gig a lot because a lot of people don't want to put out the money for an 18-piece band, but we do rehearse a lot and we do the big events in the city. It's really fun.
What kind of music?
So big bands. So 40s, 50s.
Okay, great.
Yes. And so
my favorite.
Oh, exactly. We can do the Latin stuff. I sing Besame Mucho. Besame Mucho is one of my songs. And I do, there's so many really good songs, but they're older songs. They're kind of the Frank Sinatra kind of era songs, all the big band stuff.
I've always thought that Bing Crosby was a better singer than Frank Sinatra. That's going to probably cause some controversy, but I'll stand by that.
I wonder. But you know what? Bing Crosby was a little bit before, and then Frank Sinatra was called the crooner. And I think it was because of his blue eyes and how he looked. I think he took on a different persona. I think that's why I think it was more the singer than the music, maybe. You think? I don't know.
I haven't figured that out because Bing Crosby was definitely in the 40s, especially was a more well-known and I think loved singer than Frank. But by the same token, Frank Sinatra outlived Bing Crosby. So, who knows? But I like Bing Crosby and I like his music. And I like some Frank Sinatra music as well. I'm not against Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
I think personally the best male singer of all time is still Nat King Cole.
Oh, and I do I do Orange Colored Sky, Nat King Cole's daughter.
Yeah.
This one on my brain, her name?
Natalie
Cole, exactly. Yeah. And Nat King Cole was a really good singer. So I do agree with you in that. And we do some Nat King Cole stuff. I do a lot of Ella Fitzgerald tunes as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I've always liked and just felt Nat King Cole was the best. Now, female singers, probably again, a lot of people would disagree, but I really think that Barbra Streisand is as good as there is.
I love her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did an album in 1978. I recorded an album and the main song on there was Evergreen by Barbra Streisand. I love that tune.
Yeah. I just have always liked Barbra Streisand. One of my favorite albums is Barbra Streisand at the Forum. She and James Taylor, and I forget who the third person was, did a fundraiser for George McGovern in 1972. And I just always thought that was Barbara's best album.
Oh, such a voice. I mean, she could sing anything. It's a beautiful voice. Yeah, I agree. Well, we're on the same page.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. But, so you grew up, you sang, and then what happened to you, or what did you do? What else occurred in your life that we should know about?
Oh, there's so many things. So then I know, it's crazy. So I grew up. I think I'm not quite there yet. I'm still growing. And then at 18, I got married and I went on the road with a guitar player and for 10 years. And then we had 2 kids. And then after 5 more years on the road, I actually got a divorce. And so I was 6 years as a single mom with 2 babies. Because the kids were like 11 months apart. They were really close. And so then that's when I did all my bigger gigs here in Edmonton. Those are I was hired as the first ever local Klondike Kate. In Edmonton, Alberta, we have Klondike. We used to have Klondike Days as our major summer fair. And it was a really big deal. It's kind of like the Calgary Stampede. We had the Edmonton Klondike Days. And so I was the representative of the city of Edmonton for 2 years. And I actually did it my first year. They made me audition for my second year. So I won it the second year. So I was the first ever 2 years in a row. And I represented the city all over North America, actually. Ooh. I met Muhammad Ali. I met some really great people. And I sang with Robert Pitola, did some commercials with him, went down to Vegas and played one of his stages. So I did a lot of really fun things in those 2 years, and a lot of commercials and a lot of telethons. So that was really fun. And then when that was over, that's when I got remarried to a wonderful man. And he was at the University of Alberta, and he was a professor in psychology, educational psychology. And I'm happy to say that we just celebrated last week our 36th wedding anniversary. Oh, that's how old I am, Michael.
Congratulations. Well, my wife and I were married for 40 years, and she passed in November of 2022. So
I'm sorry.
I know what it's like to be married for a long time. I loved it, love it still. Wonderful memories. And it's just unfortunate that all too many people don't ever get to have the joy of being married for such a long time.
Yes, and happily married, right?
Married, yeah.
That's the caveat.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge the happiness part of it. And I've got 40 years of memories that will never go away, which is great.
Nobody can take that away from you. That is for sure.
They can't take that away from me, as the song
goes. Can't take that away from me. That's
right, exactly. So that's pretty cool. So you do a lot of rehearsing and a lot of singing. What else do you do in the world today?
So also in the world today, I am, and I have been since 2003, I'm a residential real estate expert. So I'm a realtor, and I deal specifically with accessible and barrier-free homes. So that's kind of I was a special ed teacher, actually. I should squeeze that in there. For 6 years, I got my degree in education and was a special ed teacher in secondary ed. So all my kids were junior and senior high. And then when I came out of that, I took up after I was teaching, I took the real estate license and I got it. And I just felt like I understood anybody with mobility challenges and with any other challenges. And so I took that extra time that is needed and necessary to help them find homes and to sell.
What got you started down that road?
At the time, I was teaching for 6 years, and when in Edmonton, I don't know why it was just here. So that was 2003 is when I quit. So I had been teaching from the late 1990s, and it was like I was subbing, but I was not getting a full-time position in that. And my Edmonton Public School Board said, your file is glowing. We just don't have any spots for you. So I think it was a government funding issue. And so I ended up just thinking, I don't want to sub forever. I want to get my own classroom, and I want to have my own. And I would teach for 6 months at a time in a school. So it wasn't like I was jumping around crazy, but I really wanted my own classroom. And so when that wasn't happening after 6 years, I thought, I'm going to write the real estate license exam. And if I pass it the first time, that was my gauge. Because they say the word was that you don't pass it the first time. Everyone has to write it 2 or 3 times before they pass. My rule for my own ruler for me was to say, if I take the exam, pass it the first time, I will make that move. And that's what happened. So, and then I just took up with accessible barrier-free homes in that specialty.
So was there any specific motivation that caused you to really deal with accessibility and accessible homes and so on?
Yes. And at the time, and just actually, my mom had been in a walker and on oxygen. I had quite a few friends who had mobility issues. And then just shortly after that, I was a realtor already, and my daughter had a baby. And her baby at 8 weeks old had a near SIDS incident. So she was 8 weeks old, and Candace went to do the dishes one night at 9 o'clock at night and came back. And Kalea is her daughter's name, and she was like blue in the crib. She had to be revived. So that was terrifying for all of us. And so it was wonderful news that she did survive, but she had occipital and parietal lobe damage. So she has cortical vision impairment and also cerebral palsy. But she's thriving and loving it. And so that actually kind of got me even doing more accessible homes, because now I'm a grand ambassador. And what's that called when you get out on the street and yell at people for parking in handicapped stalls? What is that?
A smart person.
A smart person. And I was just passionate about that. I wanted to fix things and to try to make things easier for people as they should be without having to ask in the first place. So, yeah, so that's kind of the other reason I stuck to that area in real estate. And I just had the patience for it. I had the knowledge and the understanding. And I really, it was just easy for me because I think it was because the passion I had for that area. And I just love doing it and helping other people.
Well, so how old is your granddaughter now?
Now she is 12.
Okay.
She's 12.
Now, does she walk or does she use a wheelchair?
She uses, because she is as tall as me now, she's using more a wheelchair more often.
Okay.
She walks with a walker. She can't walk on her own at all. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because of the vision, right? If she could see, she sees light. It's amazing how the brain works. She sees lights and she sees color, and I can put up any color to her and she'll identify it right every time, but she doesn't see me. She doesn't see my face.
Well, tell me a little bit more about cortical vision. You and I talked about that a little bit, so why don't you explain that to people?
It's really interesting because it's something that it's not readily out there. Like, you don't hear about it a lot. And even as a special ed teacher, I can tell you that I was trained in all of the different areas of special needs, but that did not come up for me. So this was new when I found out about it. And it just means that her eyes are fine. There's nothing wrong with her eyes, but she's not processing. So the information is coming through her eyes, but she's not processing that information. But she, like I said, if I turn out the light, she'll go, oh, the lights are off. Or if I put the lights on, she'll look up and be surprised at it. You can tell that she knows. And then I used to put her on my counter in the kitchen, and I had these LED lights under my kitchen counter. And it had all these 12 different colors of light. And so I would put the blue on. I'd say, Kalea, what color is that? And she'd go blue. And I'd say, what color is that? And she'd go red. So it would be variable colors that I'd offer up to her, and she would get them right every single time. Mm-hmm. So that's the cortical vision impairment. And where if she needs to pick up something off of a dresser or off the floor, for instance, it has to be on like a black background, and then she can see it, no problem. But if you have a whole bunch of things on the ground or on the table and ask her to pick up something, that's too much information for her. So she can't just zero in on that one area, right? So it's harder for her. So you just have to make things more accessible so that she can see things, in her way.
But this is a different thing than, say, dyslexia, which is also you can see with your eyes, but your brain isn't processing the characters and allowing you to necessarily truly read it.
Exactly. And that's that different part of the brain where it's analyzing the at least you can see it, but you process it differently. That's exactly right. Where she can't see. And that's why I was thinking if she could see better, I think she would be walking maybe with a cane or with a walker better. But right now, at this stage, we can point her in the right direction and tell her to go, and she'll go. But she's not sure where she is.
But that clearly wasn't the start of you doing real estate sales, dealing with accessible homes, but it must have certainly been a powerful motivator to continue it.
Exactly that. Because my mom was on oxygen, and she had a lot of issues, mobility challenges, and I had a lot of friends who were also like in that older age group that have mobility challenges. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that were, I say, moving from a 2-story to a bungalow because they couldn't manage the stairs anymore.
So how do we get people like the Property Brothers? Do you ever watch them and you know who they are?
Oh, yes. How
do we get them to do more to deal with building accessibility into the homes that they build? Because the issue is that we have an aging population in our world, mm-hmm. and it just seems like it would be so smart if they built accessibility in right from the outset in everything that they do, because the odds are somebody's going to need it.
Exactly. And that's the forward thinking, right? And it's interesting that some builders have told me that just to make a door frame 3 inches wider does not cost you any more money. But the point is just that it's getting all the contractors on board to come out of the way that they've been doing it for so long. You know,
So
that
my
it's just
so
yeah.
my wife was in a chair her whole life. She was a
Mm-hmm.
T3 paraplegic. So,
Okay.
so, I know about all this really well. And in fact, when we built this house, we built it because we knew that to buy a home and then modify it would cost a bunch of money, $100,000 to $200,000. And in reality, when we built this house, there was no additional cost to make it accessible because, as you point out, making doors wider, lowering counters, having ramps instead of stairs,
Mm-hmm.
all are things that don't cost more if you design it in right from the outset.
Exactly. Exactly. And
And so,
that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, that's exactly the problem.
yeah. Now, we built our home in New Jersey when we moved back there, and we did have a little bit of an incremental extra cost because all the homes in the development where we found property were two-story homes. So we did have to put in an elevator. So it's about another $15,000. But beyond that, there were no additional costs. And I was amazed that appraisers wouldn't consider the elevator to be an advantage and an extra thing that made the home more valuable. But when we did sell our home in New Jersey, in fact, the elevator was a big deal because the people who bought it were short. I mean, like 5'2", 5'3", husband and wife. And I think it was her mother lived with them. And we put the laundry room up on the second floor where the bedrooms were.
Yeah.
And so the elevator and all that were just really wonderful things for everyone, which worked out really well.
Oh, that's perfect. And that's kind of what I do here in Edmonton is that I try to match the people who are selling homes that have been retrofitted and made more, accessible. I try to put out the word that this is available and I try to get the people in who need that. I feel like a matchmaker, a house matchmaker when it comes to that. Because you don't want to waste that. Like some people actually, some people who don't understand the situation have chair lifts, for instance. They are selling their house and then they rip out the chair lift. It's like, well, call me first because
Yeah.
I want to find you somebody who needs that. And that's exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of how I operate on my job.
Well, and I will tell you from personal experience, after September 11th, for the first week, having walked down 1,463 stairs and was stiff as a board for a week, I used the elevator more than Karen did.
Oh, I bet.
But
you survived that, and that's amazing.
But it was, you have to do what you got to do. I think that there's been a lot more awareness, and I've been back to the World Trade Center since, but I didn't really ask, and I should have. I know that they have done other things to make it possible to evacuate people in chairs, because there were a couple of people, like there was a quadriplegic, who I believe was a distant cousin, although I never knew him, but he wasn't able to get out, and somebody stayed with him, and they both perished. But I think that they have done more in buildings like the World Trade Center to address the issue of getting people out.
It's just too bad that we have to wait for terrible things like that to happen to create awareness. That's the only bad thing.
Well,
but it's not like we're not yelling on the streets. It's not like we're not saying things. It's just that people aren't listening. And I think it depends on if you're to a point where you are actually in a wheelchair yourself, or you have a child who's in a wheelchair. Now they understand.
Well, it is getting better. There's still a lot of issues. Organizations like Uber still really won't enforce as they should all the rules and regulations that mandate that service dogs ought to be able to go with Uber passengers who have a need to have a service dog. And so there's still a lot of educational issues that have to occur, and over time will. But I think that part of the issue was that when 2001 occurred, it was the right time that then people started to think about, oh, we've got to really deal with this issue. And it is an educational issue more than anything else.
That's true. That's true. There's a fellow here in Edmonton that, and I'm sure it's elsewhere too, but one particular fellow that I know, and he builds, they're called garden suites. Like in Edmonton, we're kind of getting so much, the population here is expanding so quickly that the city is allowing zoning for what they're called garden suites. So they're just, but he goes in and puts in like a 2-story behind the home, and it's 100% accessible, barrier free, and no basement. And so we're encouraging people to buy those homes, and they don't cost as much because they're quite a bit smaller. They're only 2-bedroom, but they have everything that anybody would need if they had mobility challenges. And so it's perfect for either people who have a son or a daughter who is getting close to being an adult and they want a little more freedom and independence. They could use that suite at the back. Or I know some adults in particular who have mobility challenges, and they just physically move to that new place in the backyard and rent out their home, right?
So
to make some revenue.
Since it's 2 stories, what do they do to make it accessible?
They have an elevator. It's a zero entry, and it's 100%. Everything in it is specifically so you move in, go right in, and it's accessible. That's how he does it, right from scratch.
Cool.
Super cool. And so I'm trying to promote that out here because I know the fellow who builds them, and it makes sense. I mean, even if you want to have a revenue property, right? And you want to build that in your backyard and then rent it out to somebody who needs that, then that'd be perfect.
It makes a lot of sense to do that.
It does. Mm-hmm.
Well, do you think that all of the knowledge that you gained in special education and so on has helped you a great deal in this newer career of doing real estate sales?
Oh, 100%. Because it's just an understanding. It's just having the compassion and understanding because I haven't experienced it myself, but I do understand what they may be going through. It's just an enlightening for me. And I just appreciate what they're going through. And I want to make it easier for them, to make any decisions that they have to make. And I don't waste their time. Like I make sure I go preview the homes first, make sure that it's something, and I FaceTime them first to say, is this something you want to even come out to? Because I don't want them to be wasting their time or their energy just trying to get to a place that's not accessible.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We moved from New Jersey to Novato, California, which is in the North Bay, which is now being just bombarded by rain. But Northern California in 2002. And when we started looking for homes, we tried to find a place where we could build, but there was just no place up there where there was land to build a home. So we knew we had to buy a home and modify it. And one day we went with a realtor, and he took us to a house, and it was clearly a house that wasn't going to work. There was no room to put in a ramp. There were lots of steps, and we pointed out all the reasons that it wouldn't work. And then he took us to another home that was really like the first one. We went to 4 different homes, and we kept saying, this won't work, and here's why. And it was like a broken record because it was all the same.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I realize that not everyone has the opportunity to really understand and learn about wheelchair access and so on, but people should focus more on doing it. It wasn't like I needed a lot for the house to be usable by me as a blind person, but Karen certainly did. And what we eventually found, another realtor took us to a place, and what was really interesting is we described what we wanted before we started looking at homes with Mary Kay, and she said, I have the perfect home. You'll have to modify it, but I have the perfect home. And of course, after our experiences with the other realtors, we were a little bit pessimistic about it, but she took us to a home, and there was a step up into it, but that's easy to modify. And then you go through an entryway, and then you can go left into the kitchen or right. And if you went right, you ended up in a little nexus where there were 3 bedrooms.
Oh,
And it wasn't even a hallway. There were just 3 bedrooms. And so it was perfect. We still had to make significant modifications, but it really was a home that was modifiable by any standard. And
yeah.
And we bought it. It was perfect for what we needed.
I'm so glad. That's a good story. That's a good story to hear.
Yeah, she got it. And
Good.
And it's so important. And I think realtors need to be aware of the fact that we deal with a very diverse population, and it's important to really understand all of the various kinds of people that you might have to deal with, but we just don't always see that, needless to say.
That's true. Unfortunately, that's so true. Yeah.
So do you, how much time do you spend doing real estate? Is that a full-time job for you?
Well, it always has been. I've been full-time, full service. So I'm on call, really, is kind of what it boils down to. But I've also pursued since COVID, I've pursued coaching courses because that's something I'd like to get into. And so now I'm a certified Jay Shetty resilience and confidence coach. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of leaning, I think as I age and as I, getting tired of, I've been a realtor for 21 years now. So I would like to eventually slow down in that area and focus more on coaching people. That's kind of where I'm leaning now a little bit, but I'm still full-time realtor and singer.
And you coach.
Yeah.
So do you, ever sing to your coaching customers? Just checking.
No.
Okay.
No.
Just checking.
I send them the recording. I'll send them my CD. You could get 2 of my CDs on iTunes. So I'll send them there, or I'll tell them to come to one of my gigs.
Oh, cool. Well, I'll have to go look you up on iTunes. I have.
Yes.
Yeah,
there's a Christmas one there. I think you'd like that, Michael. It's a really cool Christmas.
And I have Amazon Unlimited Music. I wonder if I'll bet they're there too.
You just type in Susan Janzen and I come up. I have The Greatest Love of All is my one, and the other one's called A Gift for You, and that's my Christmas one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we will check them out by all means. Well, so, when do you rehearse? When do you do singing?
Well, the big band rehearses every Saturday. Okay. So we all get together and we do, so I love the rehearsals. Like, it's so much fun for me. So, that's what we do with my other singing. I still get hired, especially during the summer festival time. I get hired to come back, and we call it Throwback Klondike Days. And I have one costume of all my costumes that were made for me. You can imagine my costumes as Klondike Kate were like a lot of sequins, full dresses with the big flary bottoms and then the feathery hats. Mm-hmm. So I used to wear those. So I still have one costume that still fits me. And so I use that every summer, and I go out and I'm asked to do different functions during the summer. And then throughout the year, I do parties, like if somebody hires me to do a birthday or some special celebration, I still do that.
Oh, cool. So how often does the big band actually go out and perform and earn some money, or does that happen much at all?
Not that much because of the size of us, right?
The size, yeah.
So, we've done, like the 100th anniversary of Arthur Murray as a dance studio. Mm. And so we did their 100th anniversary celebration. And can you imagine, like, the dance floor was it was like I was watching my own show from the stage, because we did all the Latin tunes and they came out and danced the samba and the rumbas and the tangos and everything. It was beautiful. So so that was a really fun gig, for us. And so we do other big and larger functions like in ballrooms. So we can imagine a conference perhaps that's having a big celebration will be the ballroom entertainment.
Well, you're in Canada. Can't you get Michael Bublé to hire you guys?
Ooh, wouldn't that be nice? He's got his own band.
Yeah, he does. I know. But
and his own charts.
And yeah. But he occasionally brings in a choir. I know that we went to see him. Well, Karen passed in November of 2022. We actually went to see him in Las Vegas in May of 2022. That was the last concert that we got to do together. And we ended up being relocated from up in the balcony in what Henry what Harry Belafonte would call the scholarship section. We got moved down to the orchestra pit, and we were like in row 18, even 2 rows in front of Michael's family, but we ended up being there for the concert. It was wonderful. And he walked out and shook hands with everyone while he was singing and all that. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, he does have his own band, but music's great.
Oh, so good. And he does that so well. Like my favorite show is The Voice. And so he's the judge on there too. And I really appreciate his input. And he comes off very Canadian, I think. He's just very friendly and very silly and fun and just really caring too. So I think he represents us well on The Voice.
He does not take himself too seriously, which is so important, I think, for so many people.
So true.
So he does so well with that.
So true.
Well, so we mentioned Potapalooza, and you have a podcast. Well, also, and you've written a book, right?
Yes. So I've co-authored a few books, and then plus my husband and I. Well, my husband actually is a psychologist. He wrote the book. I typed it, and then he gave me credit because I kept putting in my own stories.
There you go. Well, that's fair.
And he was kind enough to put my name on the cover. So. And we wrote a book called Living and Loving Each Day. And that's why I named my podcast that same name. But when we wrote it, the full title is Living and Loving Each Day, Success in a Blended Family. Because at that time when we got married, I had the 2 children and they were just under, they were 9 and 10 years old, 8 and 9 years old. And his boys, he had 3 boys that were older, like teenagers. And his wife passed away from cancer. So, we all got together, and I mean, blended families, that's a whole nother world. If you're not used to that, that's something else. And then it turned out that his oldest son was diagnosed schizophrenic. So that was something that we dealt with together as a family. And then, we just felt like this was our life and we wanted to share that, what that's like combining 2 separate families together and how that works and the dynamics of that. So he wrote some great stuff about how to deal with in-laws, ex-laws, and outlaws, he called them.
Yeah.
And how to deal with every family celebration, Christmas and Easter, everything. There's so many things that come up that you don't even think about until you're in that situation. Like, how do you do it? Right?
But it's so great that you 2 made the choice to do it and to blend the families and not give up on each other or any of the people in the family.
Exactly. And that's huge for me. And I can share a little story with you if you like to hear this. Okay, so this is kind of cool. So when I was singing, and I was just at the end of my 2nd year as Klondike Kate, and I was doing a lot of gigs, like a lot of singing. And I was just kind of, how that you see on the calendar that you're tuning down here. The end of the year's coming, the end of the gigs are coming, and you're not in that role anymore because they chose a new Klondike Kate. And so those 6 years that I was a single mom, my husband now had his own radio show, and it was called That's Living. And there was a show out of Edmonton, and it actually won Canadian awards for this. It was a talk show during the day for 1.5 hours, and it had 2 psychologists and a psychiatrist were the hosts. And so on the Tuesdays and Thursdays was Dr. Janzen. That was my husband. And I used to listen every day because I was a single mom. I really didn't have a lot of support, and I worked every night singing. And I had my kids all day. So it was just like my favorite show to listen to. And when I remember listening to, and I heard this Dr. Jansen's voice, I always thought he had like long white hair, long white beard. He was just so calm and so compassionate and so smart. Like, he was just I never knew what he looked like, but that's what I pictured him looking like. And then it turned out that right at the end of my singing, I remember listening one day, and he was on the air, and I was going to my agent's. I was driving down Main Street in Edmonton, and I remember going to my agent's office to see what was next for me. Like, what's next? What next gig do I have? And I remember he came on the air that day, and he said, "You know what, folks, I have to let you know that he said, my wife passed away. And he said, my boys and I have been grieving since the day we found out 6 months ago, but I need to be here to be of service to you. And I need to be on the air to help you today. And I hope you don't mind. I hope you understand." He was you know, and it was so emotional. And like I was sitting in my van, like crying, thinking, because I'd been listening to him all those years, and I just felt so sad for him. And then I'm a God-fearing woman, and I said, Lord, why can't I meet a man like that needs me as much as I need him? That was my outside prayer. And you know what? It wasn't even a week and a half later, I get a call from that station, CJCA, saying, hey, Sue, can you do a Christmas Bureau fundraiser for us? She said, there's no pay involved, but you can be MC and, you know, help us, you know, raise money for the Christmas Bureau. And so I was happy to do that. And so that's how I met my husband, was when at that particular function. So that was kind of my, you know, like just an answer to prayer and something that I really, you know, it was interesting how that all happens when you are very specific. And so that's how we met. And, so we've been together ever since, 36 years now.
Well, as I tell people, you know, Karen passed away 2 years ago, and I don't move on from Karen, but I move forward.
Exactly.
Because I think I've always interpreted moving on as you go on and you forget, and I don't want to forget, so I move forward.
Exactly.
And besides that, I know that if I misbehave, I'm going to hear about it, so I got to be a good kid, or she's going to get me one way or another.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, you know, as I said to somebody yesterday, I don't even chase girls, so you know it works out very well. But you know, the issue is that those 40 years of memories are always going to be there, and there's so much to learn from that. And again, it's all about choice. Which is so important. Well, so tell us more about the podcast. On how long have you been doing it? How did that start, and so on?
Right. So I was actually, my daughter has this a nonprofit where she works with other parents who have children with adaptive needs. And so she asked if I would interview her parents just to find out about the parents' stories. And I'm sure you understand where you want to just tell your story, what happened, without having to explain and you know, I don't know, just give all the, you know, the background to everything. They just wanted to share their story and to be heard with no judgment and with compassion. So I said, no, I can do that. I can interview them, and I want to hear their stories. And I think they need to share those stories too, for whatever happened, you know, with whatever incident happened with their children. So, so I said to my daughter, I'll do a podcast for them, you know, and just interview them. And then I only did it through Zoom and not knowing anything about how to do that. I've been MC for fundraisers, but I don't know how to do a podcast. So I did that the best I could using Zoom. And then when I was done I liked it so much, I thought, well, I better figure out how to do this like the right way.
Right.
So I actually did take a course, and there was a lady out of Toronto that was giving a course called Cash In on Camera. And so she talked about how to set up Restream, how to set up Airtable, how to do your mic, your lighting, and all of the things that you need to consider. And so I took that course. And so then I interviewed a few more people and a few experts for her. So that's kind of how I got started, with just focusing specifically on my daughter's audience, of those parents.
And how long ago was that?
That was about 2 years ago now total, because I've been doing my podcast now for just over a year.
And how many episodes a week do you do? One? Or?
I do one, but you know what? I've got 140 that I've done, and I'm thinking I've got quite a few in the books. You know how that works, where you record. Michael, you give me advice on this. So I have 3 recorded that are waiting for me, but plus I have 14 others that are on my book to interview. Like, I'm getting a lot of interest in people who want to be on my podcast, which is wonderful. But then I got to figure out how to do that, like how to actually, you know, organize it, and how often should I be putting out podcasts, like every 3 days now? Like, otherwise we're going to be going into middle of 2025. I don't know.
I started for Accessibility doing Unstoppable Mindset in August of 2021. When I started using LinkedIn seriously to look for podcast guests in 2022, and I use Sales Navigator. So we profile authors or coaches or whatever, and we'll send out emails saying, I saw your profile, it looks like you'd be an interesting guest, would you love to explore coming on Unstoppable Mindset?
Mhm.
And what we do is then when they're willing, we schedule a meeting and we talk about it. And if they want to come on, which usually they do, then we actually schedule the time. And I ask them to send me some information, as you know, like a series of questions that they want to talk about, a bio, other things like that. But we got a pretty significant backlog. And I've learned that a lot of people with very successful podcasts do have backlogs.
Oh, good.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, good.
It's better to have them. You can always add an extra podcast if you want to play more. But we do 2 a week now. And just today, we published episode 286
Wow.
since August of 2021. And so it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and I get to meet so many people. And
Yeah.
as I tell people, if I'm not learning at least as much as anyone who listens to the podcast, I'm not doing my job well.
I agree.
Quite invested in it. I think it's so important to be able to do that. So the bottom line is that we do get a lot of interesting people. I talked to someone just the other day who is very much involved in energy and healing and so on.
Mhm.
She also was a singer in Australia, had a very serious auto accident, and kind of went away from singing for a while. And then she realized she started doing a lot of creating of affirmations. Excuse me. But then she put the affirmations to music.
Yeah.
And she points out that, the lyrics are in the left side of the brain, but the music's in the right side. And they actually work together. And so by having them in a musical form, you're more likely to really be able to internalize them. So she even sang one for us on the air. It's a lot of fun. But the bottom line is that, she also does her own podcast, which is kind of fun. But there is so much to learn from so many different people. I've had so much fun doing it, and I enjoy very much the opportunities to learn.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. And I think that's why I just keep going, because it's fascinating. And it seems like different people come into my area just to ask if they can be on it. And it always works out really well. Like it's always something else that it just kind of broadens it a little bit. But I'm trying to be more focused this last 2 months now in that, in conjunction with my daughter and just doing the parents with accessible, needs or kids with adaptive needs. And also some adults are coming to me now too, saying they've in their 30s and 40s and they were just diagnosed with ADHD. And so they're in that neurodiverse group. So, I mean, who knows where that will take me, right? I'm open to it.
Well, and that's what makes it so much fun. You never know where the journey's going to take you, or if you do and you're all embracing it, so much the better. But if you don't know, it's an adventure, and that's good too. That's
great. No, I agree with you. Yeah.
So
I love
how many Potapalooza events have you been to?
That was my first one. I did not have a clue what to expect.
What did you think?
I put you down as my potential guest though, but I don't know how it didn't come up forward. So I'm glad we're doing this now. But I really enjoyed it. I love the people, and you could tell we were all in the same room with the same visions and the same, compassion for areas that we were working in. So I was really grateful for a lot of the people I met. Great people.
Well, now you and I also have an event time scheduled next Tuesday.
Do we? Good.
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, you scheduled it in my Zoom. But if you when you go look at your calendar, you'll see. I think what you did was you scheduled it, forgetting this was supposed to be a 60-minute interview conversation.
Right.
But if you send me a link, this is live radio, sports fans. If you send me a link, then I will come to yours next Tuesday at the time that we're supposed to meet, rather than you coming into the Zoom room where we are. Or I can make you a co-host and you can record it. Your choice.
Hey, yes, let's do it.
Okay. We'll get together and I'll make you a host or a co-host.
That'd be perfect.
And then you can record it.
That'd be great. Or I have Restream, so I can send you the link for that.
You choose, but
Okay.
as long as it's accessible to screen readers, I'm happy. But,
Okay.
we'll do whatever. But
And yeah, thank you for that, Michael. We'll do that. You got it. Good. We're booked.
yeah, we are already booked, so it's next Tuesday, so that'll be good.
That'll be great.
But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really is. It's nice to get to know people. It's nice to know other people's journeys, and especially what I find most fascinating is all over the world. Like we're meeting people that we would have never met.
Yeah.
Before. So I really appreciate that.
I've met a number of people from Australia. We we had a conversation with somebody from Uganda, a number of people in England, and people throughout the United States. So it's a lot of fun.
It really is. Yeah. So we're blessed. That's great.
It's a wonderful blessing. I think doing this is so enjoyable. I used to do radio in college, and so the neat thing about doing a podcast, at least the way I do it, is you're not absolutely governed by time, so you don't have to end at 4:00. And it's so much more fun than radio because you are the one that's really in control of what you do. So
yes.
It's a lot of fun. But I very much enjoy doing the podcast.
Right.
And,
You're right. It's nice not having to go to commercial break and not having to take the time and stopping and starting. That is really...
Well, people seem to like it. They keep emailing me and saying they like it, and I'm hoping that they continue to do that. As long as people are happy with me doing it, I'm going to do it. And, as I tell everyone, if you know anyone who ought to be a guest on Unstoppable Mindset, want to hear from you and provide us with an introduction, because it is part of what we do. And so
exactly.
It's so much fun.
So much fun. So tell me, why did you choose that name? Unstoppable Mindset.
I was looking for a name, and I've heard some people kind of talking about unstoppable in their lives in some way, but I also thought that we really needed to define what unstoppable meant. And so I just thought about it for a while, and it just really kind of clicked, and I said, okay, God, that must be what you want me to do, so we're going to have Unstoppable Mindset, where inclusion, diversity, and the unexpected be.
I love it.
And it is stuck, and every title for people starts with unstoppable. So you'll be unstoppable something or other. I got to think about the title, unless you've got some bright idea.
Oh, yeah, you have to let me know.
Well, I'm inclined to use something like Unstoppable Woman of Many Talents, but
Yeah, I don't have just one little lane. That was very fun. I love learning about everything, and I'm open and grateful for every opportunity. So that's probably my problem. That's not really a problem. That's not really a problem. But
it's not, and it's so much fun. So, what are your goals for the podcast? How do you hope it will make a difference in the world?
I think my biggest thing is to say, I've been through. I think it's showing people that they're not alone, that there are people out there who do understand, and there are people there that really do care about them, and that we want to provide information and services, and we want to hear their story. We want them to just know. I think a lot of people feel when they're in situations that are not whatever normal is, whatever that even means, that they're in isolation, and there's nobody that cares, and that they don't matter. And I think my biggest thing in my coaching and in my podcast is to say, you know what, we're here, and we really want to understand. If we don't understand, explain it to us so we do, and that you're not alone in this, and we're here to help, to collaborate and to help each other.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about the whole coaching program. What's happening with that? What your goals are for that, and how you're finding people and so on.
Right. So, the coaching, my specific areas are confidence and resilience is my title, like confidence and resilience coach. And I'm going based on my past and the resilience that I've overcome so many different things. So I've got kind of a long list of things. Every time we talk, I say, yeah, no, that's happened to me. But, and just to encourage people to come into either one-on-one coaching, or I'm going to have group coaching. And on my website, I also want to have subscribers where we create more value so that if they're a member, then they can get more podcasts that are more about the how-tos, like exactly, specifically areas that they might be interested in. And I also want to create a group where we can have like a 1 day a week coffee chat, so we can get people together who are in the same boat, especially those parents with children with adaptive needs, and just a place where they can just kind of no agenda, just to chat. And I also would love to have like a retreat by the end of the year. Say, hey, let's all gather and let's just have a day, together where we can enjoy each other's company. So that's kind of what I'd like to build with my coaching packages, and then also one-on-one, of course, as well. And I would like to have a community, like build a community.
So do you do any of your coaching virtually, or is it all in person?
Well, right now it's virtual, like the
Okay.
coaching I've done so far, but I'm open to either. Like I'm happy to meet people. I don't have an office. Is that interesting how if you would have asked me that question before COVID BC, I would have just had an office somewhere. And where now it's like virtual just is so convenient for so many people. And just all the driving I've eliminated, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be open to either,
How far away have you had clients from?
Basically the ones I've had are the ones that I've had up till now, really, interestingly enough, are local. They're more local people. So we could have met for coffee.
Yeah. And still might.
And I'm sure we will. So I keep in touch with them and they're doing great. But, interesting. Is that interesting? That's a really good question though, because I'm curious to see, how far, the word will get out to come and join me, in the coaching program.
Yeah.
That'd be really nice. Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun.
It sounds like fun. Yeah.
So why do you still continue to sing?
Oh, I can't stop. I can't shut up. I just can't. It's like, it's too hard for me to stop. It's my joy. That's where I find my, even as a kid going through all the tough times I went through, that was my joy. It was my happy place. So
do you think that singing helps others with confidence and resilience?
I think that the techniques that are used in singing, a lot of them are used in podcasting or speaking. A lot of them are speakers, for instance, and then they worry about confidence on camera specifically. Mm-hmm. And when that red light comes on, or when the light comes on and they just don't know how they're looking or how people are seeing them, those kind of areas. Those are the things that I kind of tackle when I talk to them, and just explain that like I sang the national anthem for a Stanley Cup playoff game. That's scary. Like that's really scary. So, I mean, I know I've been there and I know what that feels like, and I know how your body feels, and I know the importance of breathing. And I think one of the biggest things is just getting people to take deep breaths,
But when you relax and you lean into it, mm-hmm. Which I'm sure you do because you're used to it, that gives you a confidence that you can then project onto other people.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
You talked about the red light on the camera coming on. It reminds me of one of my favorite stories.
Yeah?
Right after September 11th, I was interviewed on Larry King Live on CNN.
Oh, wow. Wow.
We actually had 5 different interviews. And when the second one occurred, the producer, the director, came into the studio where I was, and Larry was still out in California, and I was doing it from CNN in New York. Okay. And he said, when they do their shows, everything is like from sort of the chest up. It's mainly dealing with your face and so on. So for Roselle to be able to be my guide dog, to be part of the show, they built a platform that we put her up on. And she was just laying there. And the director came in and he said, your dog isn't really doing anything. Is there anything we can do to make her more animated? And I said, are the Klieg lights on? Because I couldn't really tell. And he said, no. I said, then don't worry about it. When those lights come on, she will be a totally different dog, because she figured out cameras. She loved to go in front of the camera. the Klieg lights came on. She lifts up her head. She's yawning. She's blinking. She's wagging her tail. It was perfect.
That is
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories. But
that is so great.
I guess it's also the time to tell you that the name of my third guide dog was, here it comes, Klondike.
Oh, really?
My third guide dog name was a golden retriever. His name was Klondike.
Oh, now I'm called a Gates. So now you got two of us here. This is great.
Yeah, there you are.
That is so cool.
Well,
that's
if
a good
people
story.
want to reach out and get in contact with you, they want to learn about your coaching programs and so on, how do they do that?
So I think the best way is my website is www.Sue Janzen. I'm just going by my short Susan. So SUEJANZEN.ca because I am in Canada. And that'll kind of give you everything there. There'll be a little video of my granddaughter on there. There'll be ways to get in touch with me and to book a call. That would be great. And then we can chat about it.
And we have an image of your book cover in the show notes and so on. And so I hope people will pick that up. I always ask this, although a lot of times it doesn't happen, but does it happen to also be available in audio format?
No, I never did an audiobook on that. No.
Well, something to work toward.
Yeah, I would love to do voiceovers or singing. I would love to do those kind of jobs as well. But that particular book is not.
Well, someday, hopefully it will.
Yeah, exactly.
But they can reach out to you at Sue Janzen, JANZEN.ca.
Yeah,
so hopefully people will reach out. I urge you to do that. And I want to hear from all of you who are listening to this. I'd love to know what you think of our conversation today. It's been very enjoyable with Sue. So please feel free to email me at michaelhi@accessibe.com. So that's michaelhi@accessibe.com. Or go to our podcast page, which is www.michaelhingson.com/podcast. And Michael Hingson is MICHAELHINGSON. So michaelhingson.com/podcast. Love to get your thoughts. Love to hear what you think. Please, wherever you're listening, give us a 5-star rating. We value your ratings immensely, and we really do appreciate you giving us good high ratings. And also, we just want your opinions. Mm-hmm. Again, as I said earlier, for everyone, Sue, including you, if anyone knows anyone who ought to be a guest on Unstoppable Mindset, love to hear from you. Email me or have whoever email me or give us an email introduction. We're always looking for people to come on Unstoppable Mindset. So we really value you giving us that information. And we appreciate you for it. So once again, Sue, I really appreciate you being on Unstoppable Mindset today. This has been a lot of fun. I want to thank you for being here and for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. And I think you're amazing, Michael. I love what you're doing, and you're inspiring to me. So I really appreciate you. And thank you for having me today. This has been fun.